Hi, Ida here, trying to do this outside. I'm not sure how it's going to work because there's a bit of wind and I'm not sure how good my phone is with that. I wanted to talk about water today because that is a very important part of my spirituality. It's such a vital thing for our existence. Water is probably where life began. We think that it started with amino acids in some primordial ocean somewhere and just went from there. And even today our bodies is mostly water. I think we used to say about 70% of our bodies is water, and that's true not just for humans, but it's maybe not precisely 70%, but a large part of all cells is water. It doesn't matter if it's in a person or in a mouse or in a plant or in a bacterium. And we die pretty quickly if we get too much water in our bodies, or if we get too little. So that is very important for us to be able to keep that balance. And water is, I feel, also a very good way to feel connected to the world around us, because we're part of this great cycle of water moving around from the oceans and in the air and the clouds and raining and in the rivers, and we drink water. And also, and this is something that perhaps not a lot of people think about, but we also exhale water vapor when we breathe out, that then also goes into the air and floats around, and maybe someone else will drink it. And it has been like this through time. Like, it's basically the same water molecules now that was around in the time of the dinosaurs. They're just moving around. And also, of course, without water we won't be having any food, because if we want to eat meat, the animal will need water to survive, and plants also drink water to survive. And the way I see it, the ocean is sort of like the mother of all waters, because they are the biggest bodies of water, and that's where most of the water sort of comes from and returns to sooner or later. It evaporates from the ocean up into the air and form clouds, and then goes on in over the land and rains down somewhere else for us to drink, or out into the rivers. And the oceans are also very important for on Earth in general. They're the homes to some hugely important ecosystems. One of the things that we might not think very much about is that there are algae in the water, in the oceans, that produce a lot of oxygen. It's one of the greatest producers of oxygen, actually, I think, on Earth, are the algae. And they also, because they photosynthesize, and that's when they produce the oxygen, but in that process, of course, they also absorb a lot of carbon dioxide, which is also very important for us in this day and age when we have the problems with the climate change and all, which is mostly caused by carbon dioxide emissions. Another way in which the oceans are important is the currents, the way in which cold and warmer water move in the oceans, because that is what drives the climate. and in turn our weather. So that is sort of like the thing that dictates to a large extent our existence, because the weather is what decides where we can live and what we can eat. So that is also a very important way that the ocean has an influence on us. And it can be a nice thing, actually, at least I think so, to meditate on how the molecules move around from the oceans and up into the air, as I described before, and drink, and how perhaps at sometimes a dinosaur drank the same water as it's sort of floating around in my body now. But water can also be dangerous. The way that we tend to think about it in the West perhaps is mostly as natural disasters such as floods and tsunamis, but for a lot of people in the world, drinking water can be lethal too, because a lot of bacteria grows in the water and they can make you very, very sick if you don't have access to clean water, which I think shows the importance of keeping duality in mind when you look at the world around you, because we tend to see water as something that's good and something that's important for life and something that is also cleaning and cleansing. But water can also contain some very bad stuff. And it holds so much energy, and that energy can be harnessed for good, but it can also be very destructive. And there are of course a lot of deities in the various pantheons and myths around the world that are water deities or ocean deities. In the Old Norse myths, for instance, we have Ran, which is a giantess, I think. She's a goddess of the sea. She's married to Aegir. She has 9 daughters. They're all named in the sources, but I don't remember their names now. But they're all named, and they like to lure sailors into the depths so they drown. And she has a great haul, so even if you drown, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you get to feast in Ran's hall. She has a cow that is grazing on the seabed and all. So it's another place where you can end up if you die. Sort of like Valhalla, I think. And I think that hang on. Sorry about that. I thought there was another dog coming, so I needed to sort of see what was going on. Where was I? Yeah, and I think that could have brought a lot of comfort to people in the past. The idea of if you drown, you're going somewhere nice, because a lot of people still drown, but even more so in the past when you didn't have the modern technology, but also more people spend more time at sea. When there were no trains and no cars and no airplanes, you would sail. That would be, for the most part, the best way of getting from one place to the other. And also, of course, a lot of people lived from the sea as fishermen, which was a very risky job. And it doesn't really matter who you talk to. If they come from a family of fishermen, as I do, there will always be a story of some great uncle or other that went out to sea and didn't come back. And so, of course, in the past it would have been very comforting to think that they would at least go somewhere nice. What else can I say about water? Yeah, and of course water has had an important role in modern paganism, in modern esoteric traditions too. And the whole model with air, water, fire and earth, of course. You have water, and you can look at water as associated with the depths of the psyche, which I guess makes sense because you see what's on the surface, but there can be a lot of things going on underneath that aren't necessarily visible and that are quite difficult to look at. And there's also a tendency to associate water with emotions, because I guess emotions can flow in a sense like water. And again, just as we tend to see water as something that can sort of dissolve dirt and rinse it away, it can also work in a cleansing way on a spiritual level and do pretty much the same thing. And you can use that in your daily practice, both for a spiritual cleansing for yourself but also for your things. You can put them in water overnight, for instance, or you can make moon water. It's very popular among a lot of witches, where you just set some water out overnight for the moon to shine, especially the full moon, to shine on it, and it sort of gives it some extra nice power. And then you can use that for your spell work, or for your daily whatever you want to. I like to water my plants with it, my house plants. It's very nice. You can also use water for scrying, either scrying into a gaze of water, or into the waves of a living body of water like this. What else? And water is generally considered to be very healing too. And there's an airplane coming. I hope you can hear me now. And the healing properties of water, they also make sense, because if you think of in the practical world, that one of the reasons that the lifespan of people increased in the last couple of 100 years was because we learned to keep hygiene. And one of these things was that we realized how important it was with clean water, and we learned to use clean water. And also that water can be used to clean away dirt and so on. And as I said before, it does that on a spiritual level too. So it can be used to remove things that make us feel not great. And one of the best ways that I find, one of the most healing things, is to just take a bath, a nice bath. If you have one, or if you get the opportunity, do it in a lake or in the ocean, if you can do so safely. Because as I said, people still drown. But that's one of my favorite things. I use this lake quite regularly, at least in the summertime, when I feel a bit down and I'm not feeling great. I go down to the lake, and I don't even necessarily, soak my whole body in water. I can just go down and stand at the edge of the water, and with my feet in the sand, and perhaps water up to my knees, and that's just enough. It's for the water to sort of remove whatever it is that's making me feel a bit bad. So it's very healing. And very nice. I think you can see the dog, I'm not sure. Let me see. Yeah, there's the dog. This is Dill. I'm not sure I've introduced him before. This is my dog. He's a Hungarian Vizsla. He's 6 years old. Very happy-go-lucky little dog. He likes to play. I'm not sure what it is he's looking at right now. Something that moves, I guess. Anyway, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you like this.